Imagine if you could resolve organizational conflicts with a dance, or hold space for the magic of playfulness to emerge, a bit like a midwife holding space for a birthing mother to bring forth a baby. These are some of the amazing creative ideas and practices of my recent interview guest, Rehana Tejpar. Now, in my Clown Spirit podcast, which you can find by going to the website clown-spirit.com, I interview people, thought leaders, artists, creatives from all over the world and do it in different fields who are doing things that are related to clowning. Rehana Tejpar was one of my recent interviewees, and you can find the whole interview there on the podcast. However, I thought it would be really helpful to put this particular interview onto video as well, to make it accessible so that people could see Rehana's incredible physicality, and the kind of visual quality adds a lot to what she was saying. Rehana is an extraordinary individual with so much insight and wisdom, but as I mentioned, also this kind of playfulness. She is an organizational midwife, which is a really cool phrase that we talk a lot about in the interview. She's a facilitator, a leadership coach, a mediator, a movement artist. She supports leaders and organizations seeking to deepen in connection with their authentic leadership, wholeness, vision, and intuition in a holistic way. She brings over 15 years of experience midwifing transformative journeys with individuals and organizations, and is a founder of Bloom Consulting, a group of about 8 coaches who work together to strengthen the creative and collaborative brilliance of organizations to move forward wisely and inclusively. It's so important what she's doing, because she's getting to work inside organizations who are out there in the world making a difference and doing work, and she's able to bring some of this beautiful, intuitive, holistic creativity and artistry, clowning, dance, movement into those organizational contexts that can be very serious and rule-bound. So I hope you enjoy this interview, this conversation with Rehana Tejpar. And please, as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comment below in the conversation. Tell us what you thought about it. Give us a thumbs up and share us with your friends. Let's share the clown love. And here is Rehana. So, could we just get over some of the basics for the listeners? Like, could you just tell me or us a little bit about you? Like, what makes you tick? What's your work? What's at the heart of what you do? What you're passionate about? That's a lot of questions I'm throwing at you.
Yeah, I really care a lot about people and how people work together. So I really get excited about how might we build a world where the way that we collaborate and create is aligned with what's good for the world, what's good for our mind, heart, body, soul, past, present, future. And really, so it's exciting to me to get to walk alongside people and groups and like help them transform to become more wise and more healthy. And it's always there's an element of unknown and creativity, which as an artist, I love the invention of tackling really difficult problems, but with like playful, like with fun. Like, okay, the blank page is no longer anxiety producing. It's like, well, what could it be? Well, let's vision about it. Let's explore it. Let's remember that we are wiser together than we are alone. Let's create the conditions where we don't have to have one person drowning with the heavy weight of despair, but we can stand together in a circle and begin to have a different type of conversation that lifts us up and forward. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's actually hard work. but I find it really enlivening to see like what we can do together, how we can change things for the better. And I really care about it being holistic. Like I personally have a long journey of, as we all do, of ancestors. I'm the continuation of my ancestors. And in this life, I'm very aware of the work I do to heal my ancestors. And this morning I was up at dawn and it's a full moon and I had a date with my ancestors and to dance on behalf of their pains. This is part of my work. It's very spiritual and it's very embodied and personal. And when I work with other leaders or organizations, there's like a soul to the work. There's a spiritual dimension that is not always discussed. I don't need to say it. If they don't care, then it doesn't really matter. But I know that what we're shifting is deeper timelines and how humans relate across the parts of themselves, their own bodies and their minds and their hearts and their souls, which have been separated and split through processes of colonization and capitalism, and then how that relates to the way that the human family relates to one another across differences and separates us into oppositions and polarities or us and
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. So
So
there's
there's a healing.
coming together. Let's just take that theme of disconnection. Like there's a disconnection, it sounds like, across historically, between us and different generations and ancestors, and there's also kind of disconnection and separation between groups of people currently, and between people and non-human, and all of that, nature and uh, the static. And what I'm curious about is then what is it? Can you give us a sort of a taste of what you actually do to kind of reconnect or weave back together? Because that's what I'm hearing that you do.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Mm,
Um, Conflict transformation is is one of the one of the beating hearts of what we do. We meet people who are struggling with navigating differences and conflict in a way that is working for them, that is restorative. They've perhaps been approaching it from a place of avoiding it, or they've been approaching it from a way of debating it, or they've been approaching it from a punitive way. Or yeah, those are a couple of ways that people approach conflict in organizational contexts.
yeah.
And it's breaking the soul of the organization, and the people themselves are withering. They're feeling like there's no safety, trust. They can't speak up. They can't really even try out a good idea because if it's not something that's already tried, tested, and true, then there's a risk and there isn't safety to take that risk and to say, what if we did it that way? Because people have been hurt by one another. And so they're no longer humanizing each other. They're having grievance stories about each other. They're having assumptions. They're gossiping. So the toxicity kind of can flow out. And yeah, that's often when we get called, when they know they don't have the tools they need to make a difference or make it change or make it better, and they want support. And so we really customize an accompaniment, which is pretty comprehensive and works at the personal, interpersonal, and systemic levels. So tending to the individuals in conflict, hearing their stories, understanding their longings, where they're at now, what took place, and coaching with them on conflict skills, communication, really, ultimately. How do you speak so that people can hear you? And doing that with all parties, and then beginning to build a bridge towards a point of connection, beginning to share with one another, with consent, what others are noticing as the key issues. So they're beginning to see what they're beginning to feel heard finally and held, and then starting to be able to, because of being heard, they're starting to be able to like take in what others are feeling and sensing until the point comes where we bring them together to talk about it and ways that they can practice the skills of really good listening, listening with the whole body, listening to understand, listening for what the feelings are, what the needs are, what the requests are. So definitely drawing on tools from dialogue for peaceful change and nonviolent communication.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was hearing a lot of NVC in what you were just talking about.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm also hearing that there's a kind of playful embodied aspect to what you do that a lot of those dialogue facilitation type of things don't necessarily have.
Yeah, that is always available. I think that that's where my the playful spirit uh, is sitting next to me, awaiting the opportunities that arise. And it can be with the twinkle of an eye, it can be with the smile, it can be with um, allowing people to do a nonverbal check-in or a nonverbal checkout, or to, when they're ready, to map it a little in their bodies. What does this feeling of this conflict do to you? Where's your feeling in your body? Where is the stuck? Make a shape, a sculpture. Tell me how it looks. One sculpture. Okay, let that sculpture move. Where does it want to go? Let the body take it where it wants to go. Social presencing theater work is this like
Yeah.
toolbox that's very helpful
That's a
for
really cool thing. I was just wondering when you said stuck, I've heard that phrase from that work, that social presencing. Is that what it's called? Theater?
social presencing theater. Yes,
Hmm.
it's beautiful.
So
So this took,
is that something you've trained in and you bring elements of that?
yes. And so it's really sensing into what's possible at every given moment. And the possibilities open as we get to build trust and relationship.
Mm.
Typically, if I just dove right into conflict and saying, okay, we're going to do this in the body, people will clam up because that's not safe yet. We don't know each other. And a lot of humans these days are not in their bodies, they're in their heads.
Mm.
So it's incremental. It's incremental that we build this up. And it's sometimes it's working before there's massive conflict. There's maybe light conflict, but there isn't acute conflict. There's tensions, but not quite full blown. So we're upstream from a potential breakdown,
Mm.
and that's where there's more space for playfulness, a little bit more. And that's where I find I use a lot of interplay, which is another tool set that I love, and it's word play and it's embodied play, and it's it's really useless, but it's so much about relationship building. It's useless towards the like. I have to frame it as we're going to spend time building relationship and trust, and that's how I frame it. And then in the room, we have these little like games that just get them turn to the person next to you and just go back and forth, finishing the sentence. I can talk about anything that comes, first thought, best thought, for 2 minutes. Little like bite-sized chunks, and then we just build little bite-sized chunks until they're in full blown telling a story with their whole body for a witness. And it's just gradual. So how it looks is really different to the context, and this is where it's like in a way where um like naturopaths that are like, what's the remedy what's the combination of herbs that would support this team that we think, and then we constantly check in and evaluate, how is it going,
I
what's the
like
change
the
we're seeing.
I like the naturopathy analogy, and it's making me think about how only certain people seek that out. Like most people just go to regular, pharmaceutical drugs to solve their problems, right? and a very small percentage of people are aware enough, mindful enough to go to something like a naturopath. And I'm I'm wondering if that's a similar issue with you. Like, how do people come to you? How are people honest or mindful enough in their organization? And presumably it has to be somebody pretty high up in the organization to, who's wanting you to come in. Because if that person, like the CEO or somebody high, the leadership team, aren't honest or admitting that there's a problem, that there's conflict, say, then they're not going to buy a conflict resolution package, right? They're not going to open up that conversation. So is it always the case that this is that people come to you when they're already aware that there's a problem, they really need that problem solved, or is it softer than that, like you come in with some different agenda and then as you're working with them they realize there's a problem and then you help them work through that?
Yeah, both. There is a level of awareness that the leadership has. They may not have the diagnosis, but they have the pain, like they have the sore arm, they have the indigestion. If I'm looking at the metaphor of the human body on an organizational body, there's some symptom that they're experiencing that is
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel right, or this is I keep hearing, or the patterns I'm seeing are X, and they're not, that I need to move us towards more health. And it's often when it starts to affect the workflow that people, because of our conditioning towards productivity, tend to then want to rectify it. So they have some level of awareness. It depends on where they're at in their personal awareness and organizational awareness journey. But there's good intent, I feel like, to help find some kind of resolution. And then they may have already tried a conventional approach with a consultant that works in a more, I don't know, like a allopathic doctor way. I mean, it's funny to make these distinctions, but it's maybe a little bit more diagnostic, a little bit more like, this is exactly what's going to happen, and this is the result you're going to achieve, and keep it very serious and very heady, very like in the corporate sector, there's a lot of like, keep it personal, work at the door, don't talk about your life, and
Mm.
then they may have experienced it didn't work out that well. It didn't actually get at the root of what's underneath these problems. So then they come back again. So maybe that's where they're open to trying something off the beaten path. Or someone has said to refer them to us, that one they trust. And that's where the most of our clients come.
uh,
Or they've done enough work already internally. Actually, their values are quite aligned with ours, and what they offer the world is this service. But inside, they need someone else to help them embody it.
yeah. So do you go in alone? Like, I noticed you're a team, right? You this organization, Bloom Consulting, and there's a team of 5 or 6 people. Do you kind of go in teams and groups and work with them, or is it individual? Or do you have set curriculum, or is it sort of?
Yeah. So we're a team of 10, including all the different hats, the roles of that we
Mm,
have. In and about 8 of us are facilitators that will go in the room, and coaches and mediators. We love to work in pairs, ideally, um, with the backup support from our administration and communications people. But well, yeah, it's really great when we can work in duos, because we 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 build teams that are across some diversity of identity, whether it be gender or race or religion, and that helps us to hold a wider room. When the group sees a reflection of diversity in the team, then they tend to it tends just to create more space for the multiplicity in the room to emerge. And it's also a great foreground or a great playground rather for us to demonstrate difference that can be solved without separability. Like one facilitator can disagree with the other. One can say it this way, and the other one can be like, yes, and I actually think of it like this. And there's no, problem. We can have difference and it's okay. So we do that intentionally. Um,
That's cool.
Sometimes we work
Like that.
sometimes it's a one person job,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
smaller teams or shorter contracts as well.
Um, so the way that I want to sort of like lead us in this conversation, because this is all this like really important context, but the bigger conversation for me is sort of taking the lens out, right? A slightly wider view from the specifics of what you do with organizations to think about, okay, these facilitation skills that you bring and this kind of approach, what what are the bigger impacts that this kind of work can potentially have, or what is it that we could take from that work and usefully adopt or apply across society or across bigger groups of people, that might have a positive impact in the kind of challenges that we're facing as a fill in the blank. I don't know what to say anymore because it's like, what are we as a you know as
As a interconnected system of life, or
yeah, or even bigger than that, right? Like as an interconnected conglomeration of atoms that
yes.
with an essential oneness with the universe, something like that.
Yeah, that's a real simple, concise way to put it. I love that, us. I love that. I love that. How does it help us, all of us? Yeah, I think that I love this invitation to step back and look at it from a wider lens. Um, this inherent unity that is that you speak of is often so lost with the illusion of our separateness, difference, and yet we are all in one another. We have the earth is inside of us. We are a part of the earth. All of our um, life is in relationship, and yet humans these days have less capacity to be relational, actually, in their workplaces. There's so much drive to be fast and productive. And so the relational component is it's a muscle. It has to be worked. And sometimes we need to learn new repertoire out to get those muscles strong. So that when I look back at us as a species and a unit, a system that is in disconnect from one another, from the wars, from the ecological devastation, from our disconnect from the sacred or the spiritual. It's this work is about reunion. It's about reunification, or to reconnect ourselves with each other at the interpersonal levels, learning how to listen, learning how to communicate in good ways, learning how to care for the feelings that are there, allowing there to be feelings, emotions, who also they give us so much data, information about what is happening. And when we disconnect from the feeling, we don't allow emotions to come up and speak. That's how we end up with conflicts that are so long gone, or wars, in fact, or we can become numb to the impact of our so we can be engaged in work that's not aligned with our deeper consciousness of love, or value systems. So some part of it is about like healing and feeling again, being able to slow down enough to presence our feelings and needs, communicate them. And so there's that I think ripples out to us being able to be more in interconnected, to live back, to see things as they really are, to feel actually more part of a whole rather than individual. And from that place, the possibilities of our co-creativity are really boundless.
Mm.
And I know that no one of us has the solution for the climate crisis. No one of us has the solution to repair any one war on the planet at this time, or the incredible suicidation of our young people who don't have hope. It's a collective intelligence that can bring forth the pluralism of solutions or ideas that can move us forward or move us towards health. And that what we need to be able to know how to work well together across differences to be able to support those innovations, those ideas, that collective brilliance.
Yeah, this is really, really powerful. And I'm hearing, well, first of all, I just want to say that I wish people could see you who are listening to this. Maybe we will upload a video of it as well, because you're kind of dancing as you speak, and I think it's quite powerful, because it's not just the words. What's coming across for me as I'm watching you is like a combination of the words and this visual impact of you expressing yourself and moving in the space. So, for example, just for the people listening, at some point, Rehana was really standing quite far away from the camera, just facing to one side and just looking out of a window or something. And then you were also moving around a lot and moving your arms a lot, moving your whole body a lot. It was like a dance. Do you have a dance practice, by the way?
I
Imagine.
do. Yeah, I am a dancer, and I come from a long line of dancers.
Oh, wow. So there's like professional dancers in your family.
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and non-professional dancers too, kitchen
Yeah.
dancers,
And
community center
what does
dancers.
professional mean anyway? What
Mm.
kinds of dance? Like different.
Oh, my grandmother was a tango dancer.
Ah,
My mother salsa. My sister's a professional dancer. She studied in ballet and then contemporary dance. My aunt is a belly dancer, and
belly
I
or ballet?
belly
Belly.
dancer,
Yeah.
belly dancer, and I grew up in dance in the studio of jazz and hip hop and acrobats and this, and then I really moved into contemporary and then classical Indian dance and then traditional African dance and then flamenco, and I just couldn't stop. And now it's a fusion of my dance is really whatever my body really how it wants to move is what I follow.
Beautiful. Like do you do like five rhythms
I
and
do 5 rhythms. Love it. It's such a
contact?
life practice for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Does Dan dance with you?
Yes, he does. We went to 5 rhythms last night,
Oh,
actually.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. So you're an artist and you think of yourself as an artist? Would you
Yeah.
identify as an artist?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think, and I see that in like the really broad, to me, an artist is everyone. And we all have our own unique form of artistry. And mine is designing processes.
Mm, that's cool. Right now you have like a like designing processes.
It's
Mm.
right. It's where sometimes the trickster is there. It's right there.
Yeah, and there's this like flames like I'm seeing in your fingers right now, the way you're sort of holding your hands up next to each other and the fingers are kind of wiggling around. It looks like flames flickering, the sort of,
Ooh.
energy of that light and heat and flickeriness.
Yeah, putting lights in the shadows
Mm.
gently so it doesn't set anything on fire too much.
You don't want to
Just warms.
destroy. You just want
No.
you want regrowth. You want enough burning to
Yes.
space for regrowth, maybe.
Yes. This is true. This is a midwifery practice. And I also come from a long line of midwives.
Oh.
And I think of this also as like the things that need to be born require the transformation. So not the death really, because there's no death. Something
Mm,
dies,
mm,
a plant wilts and it becomes nourishment for the soil. So it's the cycle of regeneration, but there is an ending and a beginning, a new beginning. And that's also what the
mm.
midwife does with
I love all of
stewarding
it.
life and
Yep.
death.
There's a beautiful dance right now that's kind of
Mm.
going on. I'm gonna have to edit and put some of this video online, I think, so that your listening can go and watch it. It's very nice just to mirror you and just to kind of get
Mm.
into the feeling of what you're talking about through the
Mm.
embodied quality of it.
Mm.
Mm. There's a mischievousness about you, and you just mentioned tricksters.
Mm.
Are you from a long line of tricksters also?
You know what? I am. My parents, my mom, not. My dad, yes, and his sister and mother. My grandmother used to steal the car at 9 years old with seven, eight siblings. And she would, they lived on a faith farm, and she would wheel the car down the hill so that the engine wouldn't wake everyone up while they were taking a nap. In the afternoon, the adults would nap. This is in East Africa and Tanzania. She would wheel the car down the hill, and then everyone would jump in the car and she'd go driving off into the savannah. I
Wow,
know.
that's
Yes.
intense. And you grew up in Tanzania. I didn't know this.
My dad grew up in Tanzania.
Okay.
My dad grew up in Tanzania, and then they were immigrants, third generation East African Indians. So from Kutch, from Gujarat.
So you were saying who was it? Oh, your aunt. Your aunt used to steal the car, right?
No grandmother.
Grandmother. Okay.
My grandmother, my dad's mom.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tricksters bring me kind of neatly to this to connecting us with the clowning and the my audience that you folks listening are primarily listening because you're interested in clowning and that's what this podcast is about. But with the clown plus concept, what I'm trying to do is find and explore all these beautiful interconnecting webs between different practices that I think are often really talking about the same things. So we can kind of come together and yeah, it's fun to notice difference um, and to kind of play with abstract concepts and distinctions and things. And that's fun. So it's fine to do it. But also like maybe sometimes we're wasting energy by um, pushing our particular thing when actually lots of other people are doing the same thing by a different name. And sometimes if we come together and find that actually unite our energies and our efforts, maybe that will help in the future. So I'm interested in I have some thoughts based on what you've said so far, but I'm one, and you probably have thoughts because you've been exposed to clowning as well. Um, yeah, where do you see the connections? Do you feel like you're clowning sometimes, or there is a that embedded in what you're doing?
Yeah, I do. I do. I love this question because it's going to give me a chance to really reflect on it. There is something that's about that I see I'm sort of imagining like the realm of facilitation and then the realm as a circle, and the realm of clowning as a circle, and then this is this overlap, which is like the beautiful web of interconnection of all things. And in this overlap, I see for me in my practice is presence, so much presence, being so there with a group and aware of them. The way a clown is so aware of the audience, like they're in service of this, what one step, and then see what does the audience, how do they react, and so there's an attunement that I need to embody as a good steward or company or facilitator. It's not because I think this, it doesn't really matter if I think the idea is great if nobody's along for the ride. I need to be able to pivot quick and feel really a lot of receive sensory data from a Zoom room sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that's a quite a
Yeah, like noticing
like
when it's not landing or when it's not something's not quite jiving or right, and
mhm.
noticing, being able to pick up on that, A, and then B, having the kind of honesty to call it out or to pivot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so really keeping the loop continuously connected. So I'm talking, I'm listening, I'm talking, I'm listening. We're in conversation together. It's so that I'm getting feedback in an ongoing way. Uh, Verbal, but also then the sensorial and the body feeling it.
Yeah.
Um, there is a what if mindset. People come to us when they run out of ideas.
Mm,
They don't know what to do yet anymore.
mm,
They've tried.
mm,
Their 20th century toolbox of leadership has been used and it's not addressing their needs. So the always the being fresh, having fresh ideas and a willingness to take risks and try, a little fearlessness, a deep faith in the universe and in ourselves that what we're risking is it's enough we can withstand the potential failure
mm,
and then failing forward when we fail and learning, allowing us all to really reframe failure as something that is a learning opportunity, a really an important jewel. And for the clown, the jewel is this is humor, um, entertainment, also so connecting to the human experience because we are bumbling around humans trying to just like figure it out in life, and the clown embodies that in such a innocent way often. And then for us, it's about bringing levity to that, like reframing it as such a great thing that we know now that idea doesn't work. It's not bad. It's great.
mm,
It's what could we learn, and we can know what we do want to do, what would be a better our next hypothesis is strengthened, and allowing people to live in that like prototype, test, learn, and reframe failure as an opportunity.
mm. Beautiful. Take us more into that levity space. Where does that show up in your actual work?
So much, so much. First of all, that it's really okay to not know. It's
Mm,
not someone's fault
mm,
that we don't know yet what to do. It's okay. And um, using a strengths-based approach, a lot of appreciative inquiry. Like, let's start with what is working well, and let's celebrate the small wins along the way. Let's really feel the seeing through the eyes of goodness. Oh my God, we got so many things that are working well. It's really only really not working here. But then we get so focused on where it's not working that people can forget that all the other things that are going
yeah.
well.
And what I'm seeing in your eyes right now is almost like a sense of awe, or astonishment, or delight, right? That is also very critical with clowning, and sometimes we lose that when we focus on the negative.
Yeah. Yes. And the curiosity to learn to like explore that wonder is applied to all of our work, that we walk in with the unknown, not thinking we know, but asking good questions and helping us all to learn actually as we're going.
Mm.
The learning mindset that I see the clown embodies so richly. And then I think the more like there is a for me this is the stealthier. The trickster is the stealthy that I don't talk about with any client
Hmm.
so much. It's more this like energetic of like, can we um can we play with this? And
Mm.
it's actually kind of funny. Like this tragedy can be a little bit funny at times. And it's a timing. It's sometimes just with a face. It's sometimes just a I will burst out in laughter, but it really has to be skillful. So it's
Mm.
I can't quite talk about it because it's so much in the body when my body can feel, okay, the room can handle me being like some kind of like expression of the pain, that's sort of a lightening of it that makes people like
Mm.
crack open a bit and be like, oh my God, okay, this is this is a funny tragedy. Or it's it can be not so bad at the bottom of this pit of despair. Like we can actually light a candle and have a snack here and
Hang out.
sing a song.
Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful expression. Well, you said expression of pain. Something about that, the expression of pain, funny tragedy. It's and the delicacy that you're talking about is very key for clowning. The delicacy or the what's the word? The sensitivity. I was talking to my clown teacher a while ago, and she said she was talking about COVID and how COVID it was really hard to be funny to clown. It just wasn't funny. There was nothing really funny about COVID, and she had to be kind of okay with that. Like some things just aren't funny yet. Maybe they will become, with distance. But acknowledging that there is this sort of like appropriateness or sort of, pick that ability to have an antenna for what is appropriate in the moment. When is it okay to crack open this
Hmm.
this pain, and when is it
And
not? Yeah.
right, yes. And what I've found is that I can invite humor and play in one step removed from the direct experience of the pain. So we are talking about conflict, we are navigating conflict. But then I'm going to invite a game that's sort of different. It has nothing to do with conflict. And then that can break open some laughter and humor and levity. Or I'll be the clown who's, oops, bumbling around with my own materials. Oops, I fall down in the room, or I trip, or I have these funny. I'm both very graceful. I'm a dancer, but I'm also very clumsy sometimes. Or I'll be with a PowerPoint and it's twisted and and they're laughing at me and I'm letting them.
Mm,
So it's adjacent, it's in the room with the pain, but it's not about the pain. And that can begin to soften.
mm.
So how I'm holding it is both with a lot of care, but then right next there's a bit of like I can't say it better than my words. My body is
Yeah, I'm gonna try and describe what you're doing
swirling.
right now. Yeah, you're swirling around sort of
Like,
randomly, very much like a clown, I would say, in fact, because what you're doing is there's chaos, but then your connection, the eye contact that you're holding with me with the camera is what allows me to enjoy it and feel like you're actually okay. You're not actually suffering. So you can be in the
Yeah,
chaos and the tragedy, and but because of this, it's
it's
like
still
I'm with you.
there.
There's connection.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like the midwife.
Mm.
Oof, the midwife has got the
Oh wow.
birthing person. They are there for the birthing person first, before the baby. And they are holding that womb space for the one who has the womb. And that holding is got to be very robust, but also flexible. But that only this ability to play and dance inside is only possible when there are real good boundaries around this sacred, fiery, creative, like incubation, you know?
Mm.
Wow, there's lots of there that I'm like feeling the power of in the womb. The baby is like forming and doesn't know yet exactly what it will become, you know, but there's safety to do so because they're being fed and they're being loved and they're being held. Yeah, I think that's the highest aspiration for this work. Um, hmm. And it isn't for everyone. Not everybody's ready. But before we go there, I'm curious what else you see. How is the spirit of clown present for you? And if there's anything I didn't share that you, because you said you had some ideas. I
Yeah, I think you've
wonder.
said it. You said it all. I mean, you said it much more interestingly than I could have said it, which is why I'm interviewing you. Because I could just talk on my podcast on my own, but you bring in this perspective, and I think, and also you're. I'm definitely going to make this somehow available for people on video because you're embodying a clownish spirit in how you. And right now, you're taking off your sweater, and you've stopped halfway through, which is a very clownish thing. You're just like, I'm fine. I'm wearing half a sweater.
Because I'm not entirely warm enough to take it off completely.
That's fine. Keep it half on, half off.
Thanks.
Like glass half full, half empty. It's either, I don't know which it is. Sweater half on, half off. Also, if you take it fully off, I'm worried about it kind of pulling out these little earplug things that you have in.
Right, right.
Would be disaster.
You wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to do that.
No, I feel that the way you've just been expressing it is very specific to you, and that's what I'm interested in. I really love that final reflection on midwifery and birthing, and particularly because I've been through that as a participant, not as the person giving birth, but I've been in the room twice during a birthing, and so I'm thinking about the sort of panic, well, not the panic, but like the sort of the chaos, I guess, that is going on for the woman who is giving birth internally, externally. It's like this wild ride. Um, and it requires letting go and surrender, right? It requires surrendering to this wild natural thing that's sort of takes over your body. And so that is quite akin to the the state, the altered state of being that we aspire to in clowning, letting go, surrendering to this kind of wild natural impulse.
Mm.
But what you're providing for them is this line of connection to ground something grounded, something which they can do that have themselves if they're maybe from a, I don't know, if they've got the right upbringing or mentality or something to do it, but you're helping them find that line, that almost like safety line to some grounded, centered awareness where they can then feel safe enough to let go and surrender.
Yeah.
But they're not, it's not surrendering yourself to complete annihilation or craziness. It's like And with clowning, we talk about the same thing. We talk about, yes, you have to enter into this altered reality, this altered state to clown, but you can't just let go of rational connection, because then you're dangerous to yourself, to others. It's not clowning. It's not structured in the right kind of way. So there has to be that safety line that you keep in your, and I sort of think about it as here, kind of coming out of your head and anchoring yourself to something
Mm.
that maybe is about boundaries, for yourself. It's keep yourself safe, keep others safe. Remember that you're there to sort of serve, to entertain, to to transform, and that you're also a somewhat responsible for a script, maybe, or a structure, a through line that that you've prepared, that you've rehearsed. You're keeping yourself connected to those things whilst allowing yourself to be crazy and free and spontaneous.
Yeah. And that's the sweet spot. That is like the overlap between chaos and order,
Mm,
the chaotic path, otherwise known, is this space of emergence of like the where the conditions are the ripest in nature or in life, in all nature and life as one, to birth something, to give rise to a wisdom, the future that wants to emerge now, the wisdom of the room, the creative genius that's there. And so creating enough of the both of those things, of the chaos and the order, like allowing for both,
mm,
is sort of exactly what you're saying. And we tend towards control in a lot of organizational systems, the machine-like predictability, and um, and that does really take away from our ability to be really see new outside the box perspective,
yeah.
and or hear divergent or outlying voices. To hear the voice of the most vulnerable in the room can be really hard if you're in control, because power is often what controls. And then if you're, in a real state of chaos where there's no order at all, there's actually nothing you can really build from it. It's just disparate, disorganized,
Right.
all over the place. Like, how do you harness that? You
Mm.
need a bit of, like you said, the through line, you need the boundaries, you need some order.
Harness. How do you harness it and how do you harvest it as well? How do you gather? Um, this is a beautiful place to finish, I think, Rehana. I'm going to suggest that we end, because we could just actually keep on jamming for hours, but I feel like first thought, best thought, and we've kind of like said so much that gets to the heart of it. Um, so I just want to say thank you for going on that journey with me. Feels like we just scratched the surface, but also we went deep.
I'm so grateful to you for this play space, this opportunity. I think I really enjoyed. I really feel like we accomplished a playful conversation, and your curiosity and presence and clown-like wonder is yeah, it's such a gift to be with. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And continue, please, just bringing your beautiful gifts into the world. And you're welcome to come to clown workshops and teach us your way of clowning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Barnaby.
You're welcome.
You too. Keep doing your good work. It's important for all of us.